All right, back here on This Week in Pro Football, Week 10 edition. Sal Paolantonio joined me for an extended visit. All right, Sal, let's talk some Philadelphia Eagles here. The Eagles win by 5 last week and were gifted an interception there at the end of the game by Trevor Lawrence. Sal, I mean, that could have been an utter disaster for Philadelphia because during the game, Nick Sirianni eschewed 2 sub-40-yard field goals and 3 extra points, a total of 9 points, assuming Elliott makes the kicks. I mean, what is this obsession with analytics that he has? And do you think there's any lesson for him to learn there that may alter his behavior in the second half of the season?
I think there's definitely a lesson, and I think he learned his lesson. I don't think you'll see that again. I think the number one thing that coaches do wrong is they chase points. I saw John Harbaugh do it in an AFC championship game against the Titans. I saw Dan Campbell do it in San Francisco last year. He had the game on his racket. Utterly terrible decisions. You don't chase points, you take points. It's a 16-game season. You play the long game. Your offense is chugging along.
Yeah.
You know, Pat, the Eagles average 38.5 rushes per game. That's the most in the National Football League. They can do what they want in the running game. They can impose their will. And when you can do that offensively, set up play action, get the deep shots, they also lead the league in pass plays of 20 yards or more. So they lead the league in rushes per game. They lead the league in pass plays of 20 yards or more. That's what you call thunder and lightning. They can do anything they want offensively. So don't put your offense in a bad position as the head coach. I thought it was really misguided. I really did.
You are right. It was real. I thought too it was very misguided. He came within 25 yards of having some serious questions to answer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sal, another question that I wanted to run by you relative to the Philadelphia Eagles. So as you mentioned, that offense is chugging along. And it's chugging on the back of number 26, who is playing extraordinary football right now. But as you and I were talking about, he is on pace for 375 touches this year. Do you see the Eagles taking a hard look at that and maybe trying to dial down the number of times he's touching the ball?
Well, Reuben Frank asked Nick Sirianni out of the gate yesterday, I sent you that Q&A.
Right.
And I looked at the video. I don't know. I don't think Nick Sirianni realized the number was that high from his answer.
Yeah.
Because his answer basically says that's something we might take a look at. So Saquon is on pace for, assuming he plays all 17 games, for 376 touches total. That would be 22 touches per game. That would be the most he's ever had in his career. And remember, he's 28. I'm 27. He'll be 28 on Super Bowl Sunday, by the way, February 9, 2025. Mm-hmm. So it would be nice if Saquon Barkley was in the Super Bowl playing for the Eagles on his birthday, February 9th in New Orleans.
It would be.
So, and we're knocking on wood. We don't want to jinx anybody. But you have Shipley. You have Gainwell. You have a passing game. What you got to do is be judicious. We saw Lamar Jackson last week take 2 days of rest. No problem.
Yeah.
A running back of Saquon Barkley's experience and caliber does not need to practice during the week, A, and he doesn't need to have a workload that gives him the highest number of touches in his career in his 7th season at age 28 in a 17-game season when, he could be playing 4 playoff games easily. The team is that good.
Yeah. Sal, you and I talked about this in prior years too. Cincinnati acquired Khalil Herbert when Zach Moss went down for the season. I mean, there's the type of guy the Eagles, in my opinion, should have taken a look at. A guy to back up Barkley who could grind it out, who can run between the tackles and get those 4 and 5 yards. I'm not sure Gainwell can do that. But the Eagles, I guess, are satisfied with their running back group.
Yeah, how about that? Trader Howie is now Stan Pat Howie.
Yes. Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Dallas and Washington both made trades.
I know.
The Giants didn't, but the Giants are playing for.
All right, Sal. Let me.
Scottsdale.
I never thought I'd ask this question of Sal Paolantonio, but I'm going to ask it, and that is: we talked last week about Eagles Jags maybe being a trap game. Is Eagles Cowboys possibly a trap game with that Thursday nighter now coming up with Washington?
Yeah, I mean, trap game is such a pejorative term, right, Pat? Yeah. It means you're not paying attention to what's going on.
Right.
I don't see that with this team for two major reasons. Vic Fangio and Jalen Hurts. It's pretty clear when you study the Eagles defense that they are getting better because of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Right, as you talked about last week, right?
Yeah, they're getting better. We have a great piece in the matchup show that starts off the matchup show on Cooper DeJean and his impact. It's phenomenal. He's obviously studying tape like there's absolutely no tomorrow. He has ability and tackling skills. He's a really smart player. Quinyon Mitchell is tough, super smart, and they have elevated the play of that entire secondary, which was a monstrous problem last year. Yeah. Monstrous.
Yeah.
And they've turned the page on that. And then Jalen Hurts is, in my opinion, playing his best ball since the Super Bowl year.
All right. Yep. I think the Eagles are well primed, and I understand your point about that term being a pejorative term, but let me just. All right, well, let's just segue for a second to the Eagles' opponent Sunday. I have Todd Archer coming on at the top of the hour.
My man, Todd Archer.
That's right, but
nobody knows any team in the league like Todd Archer knows the Dallas Cowboys. Let me tell you.
I mean, you got a pretty.
Your viewers are in for a treat.
Well, just give me your take. Yeah, you mentioned about Dak Prescott, but I mean, even before he got hurt, Sal, the wheels were off in Dallas. What do you see this team doing organizationally, not just over the second half of the season, but do they need to think long and hard now about restructuring that front office in Dallas? Because seriously, I mean, does he need to will he finally think about, I need a football guy in here?
Pat, we could spend like 5 hours on that subject, but the bottom line is there's no way they're restructuring that front office. Not while the old man is alive.
Yeah, okay.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So the question is, what are they going to do with Dak and McCarthy?
Yeah, I think I have an idea of what they're going to do with McCarthy. Now he's in the last year of his deal. I don't see anything he gets extended, Sal.
But the Eagles have to play him twice without Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And that's good for Philadelphia for sure. But they've got some tough games, the Eagles. They've got this Dallas. It's always hard to go into Dallas. Listen, It is. It's hard. It's hard to go on the road and win.
Yeah.
You come home Sunday night late. You got to go into the facility, get treatment, put in the game plan for a Thursday night game. Players are off on Monday of 1 day of practice.
Right.
One. Tuesday, Wednesday have a little walkthrough. Thursday, you're playing a game against a team that might be leading the division.
I know.
And then you have 2 games on the road against a very good Rams defense and the Baltimore Ravens, who are playing pinball football.
I know. You're right. This next year, you talked about the 4-game stretch they just had. They answered the bell. Can't do better than 4-0. Now they got a stretch here, Sal. And you're right. They're not just playing to beat out the Commanders. They're playing for a seed, where let's face it, you don't want to go to Green Bay in January, or you don't want to go to Detroit. You want to.
Well, they already beat Green Bay. So I think right now what you got to do is try to overtake the Commanders, win the division, and get one home game in the playoffs. That's what you got to get.
Right.
Get that one home game.
Right.
And then you go on the road twice, and then you got a shot.
Right. All right, Sal, I got 1 minute left with you. Just give me a quick take, if you would. Just give me a couple things you think to look for in the second half of the season here, both in Philadelphia and around the NFC, say.
Well, the number one thing that I want to see the Eagles do is not overwork Saquon Barkley while they're on this run. That may be hard to do, but this is where Nick Sirianni can really earn his money, and Kellen Moore and the run game coordinator, Jeff Stoutland. Figure out a way to continue to be dominant in the run game while Saquon Barkley is still in great shape for January.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
Yep.
And number 2 is continue to build on this defensive prowess that they have. Around the NFL, somebody's got to find a way to knock off the Chiefs. I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's right.
And I don't see it happening. Their defense is too good.
Yeah.
And their offense is too resilient.
Yeah.
They're great on third down. They're great in the red zone. They're great on the 5-yard line.
Yeah. Other than that, they're not that good. But you are right. You nailed it all. You're right. That's going to be a tough out for Baltimore and for Buffalo.
You got to go through Kansas City.
Right.
You know, it's the trip from Kansas City down to Mississippi River or whatever it is. I don't know my geography there, but to get to New Orleans, it's not that. You only got to win one game, and then you're in the championship game.
Yeah, tough. All right, Sal Pal, I appreciate you taking all this time. I know you got to run. Thanks very much again for the extended stay. Look forward to it. Look forward to the matchup show on the weekend on ESPN. Everybody check it out. Sal, thanks very much. Matchup show on ESPN national correspondent and the author of How Football Explains America, the great Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, week 10 on This Week in Pro Football. Let's go, Pat. Let's go.
All right, here we go, Sal. Here we go. Xander, if you can bring up those standings now for week 9 in the National Football League. Sal, we're going to do a little good, bad, and ugly here, and I'd love to get your comments on this. The Lions are the NFL's best team after winning their first outdoor game, Sal. They only have one more the rest of the season.
Lions are good. The Lions are run by their offensive line. Our old friend Hank Fraley is their offensive line coach. They are well coached. They are nasty. They set the tone on that football team, set the protection for Jared Goff, have one of the best rushing attacks in the National Football League. Focus on what they do on their offensive line. They're good. All
right. Sal, I don't know how many people in their pool had Washington at 7-2 after 9 weeks. The Commanders, it's not a terribly hard schedule too the rest of the way. Commanders are going to chase the Eagles for that division title.
The Commanders have 2 tough games in a row, though. Steelers, 3rd best in the National Football League in points allowed. Pat, Mike Tomlin continues to be the best adjustment head coach in the NFL. After halftime, in the 3rd quarter, the Steelers have not given up a single point in the 3rd quarter all season. That's the 4th time that's happened this late in the NFL season since 1940, Pat.
You go, Sal. There you go. He's done a heck of a job with them. That's a fact. I did not have Pittsburgh and on top of that division after 9 weeks.
And then Washington's got to play the Eagles on a short week on the road after that game. Yeah. This is 2 tough games for Washington.
Correct. The Eagles play 5 division games in the last 9 weeks, Sal. So the Eagles are going to be in control of their own destiny. So I think Philadelphia looks like they're rounding into shape. We'll talk more about the Eagles, Sal, in just a minute. Looking at the AFC, Sal, 3 division races, in my opinion, are basically over. I think Buffalo has the East one. I think Houston has the South one, and Kansas City has the West one. Do you see much debate about those 3 divisions?
Well, let's take one at a time. I mean, Buffalo is not going to get really much competition. The Jets have a very difficult game in Arizona this week.
Right.
It's an absolutely got-to-have-it game. I think Arizona is going to beat them. Houston will win that division despite the fact that they have injuries. The Chargers are number 1 in the league in points allowed. The Chargers are a team worth watching down the stretch.
Yeah, Chargers, another pleasant surprise along with Denver, which got tripped up and ran into the usual buzzsaw Baltimore at home last week.
October Lamar.
That's right. That's right. Sal, the Chiefs have, in my opinion, about 3 tough games left in the season for them. They're at Buffalo. They host Houston. They're at Pittsburgh. Other than that, now, you mentioned the Chargers, too. They got a game left with the Chargers. But I think to me, Sal, I know it's called This Week in Pro Football, but I think that conference championship is going through Arrowhead again. Not good news for the Bills.
That's a safe bet, Pat. That is a safe bet. Based on that schedule, Baltimore's already got 3 losses. So the only other place where it could go through is Buffalo. Really?
Right. So the Ravens, you're right. The Ravens already with the 3 losses. It's going to be one of those 2 against Kansas City for the AFC title game. All right, Sal, let's do a little bad. That was the good. Here's the bad for the first half of the season. The Jets, as you just mentioned they saved their season last Thursday night beating Houston, but you're right. It doesn't get any easier for them. Give me your thoughts on the Jets now sitting at 3-6 and probably 3-7.
Well, Arizona's a well-coached team. They don't have any superstars other than Kyler Murray and their rookie wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. But they're well-coached. They're tough to beat in Arizona. So I think the Jets are going to have difficulty winning that game. I really do.
Oh, I do too.
And then you got to start wondering at 3-7, what's the rest of the season about? It's about, well, is Woody Johnson going to get another ambassadorship and leave the country now that Donald Trump is the president-elect? Or is he going to stick around to pick the next GM, next head coach, and next quarterback?
Yeah, about that. A lot of questions at the Meadowlands for both teams, Sal. The Buccaneers have lost 3 straight. It looked like they were going to take control of that NFC South. They now dropped 3 straight. They're competitive, though, Sal. But is the fairy tale over for the Tampa Bay Bucs this season?
I don't believe that it is. Baker Mayfield is playing at an extremely high productive level. I think they beat the Niners this week. I do. And then back into the conversation. But, the Falcons, look, what's their record? 6-3. They're going to be 7-3 probably after this week.
Yeah.
The Falcons, they've got the Broncos coming up. So that's a pretty good game for them. I think that's in Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it is, but it doesn't really matter. Kirk Cousins is playing at a very high level right now. It's going to be tough to really beat Atlanta for the division title, but they might sneak in for a wild card.
All right.
But your Rams are right there, Pat.
Yes,
Rams they've won 3 straight. Everybody's focused on Matthew Stafford.
Right.
I know we're over with the good section, but that Rams defense is young, fast, creative, complex.
Yeah. Yeah, Rams are looking much, much better. And Seattle was my other bad, Sal. They've lost 5 of 6 after a 3-0 start. And I said, I don't know if I said it to you, but, Geno Smith at some point becomes Geno Smith. I mean, it wasn't an accident. In the first 7 or 8 years of his career, he was just a backup. And he doesn't all of a sudden become Dan Marino. He's become an interception machine there. Two terrible interceptions last week. Seattle not looking good at all.
Yeah, he really hurts them with turnovers. Second half of the year, as we discussed last week on the show, number 1 indicator of a team's success is turnover by the quarterback. Right. Number 2 is points allowed. Number 3 is volume in the run game. And Seattle really doesn't check any of those boxes.
No. Sal, the ugly is for the first half of the season. I'm going to zero in on those 3-5 Cowboys. This is a really very surprising development for a team that I think had serious aspirations this year.
You did?
I think they overrated their defense, Sal. Their defense is just not big enough, in my opinion. And they overrated their defense, and then their offense has really, really sputtered. And I got to tell you, it doesn't look good at all in the second half of the season for Dallas, Sal. They got some tough games, and I think they're going to be there. You mentioned the Jets. I think Dallas is going to be playing out the string very soon.
Well, they're talking about Dak Prescott having his hamstring separated from the bone in his leg. Oof. That's a gruesome injury.
Yeah.
We wish Dak Prescott the best. He's a good guy. He's a good leader. He's tough. But that's a gruesome injury that probably puts him out for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer. So when you're looking at a backup quarterback situation, you're looking at playing out the string.
Yeah. Dallas's next 3, Philadelphia, then Houston, and then at Washington. It's not looking good at all for the Cowboys. The other, and I'm declaring as absolute dumpster fire, Sal. The Raiders, they just can't seem to get out of their own way. The Browns, a terrible season for a team that I think also had some postseason aspirations this year. They made the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco. And then, of course, the usual suspects, too. The Giants, 2-7, just terrible. And the Saints have now lost 7 straight, and their coach is gone.
Yeah, and if you look at the middle of the pack teams that could go either way in weeks 10 and 11, they would be Cincinnati, for sure, Tampa, for sure, Chicago, for sure. They're in that conversation.
Yeah.
And San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so you look at those teams, Miami maybe,
Right.
Well, Miami's only got 2 wins, right? So
Yeah,
I don't
Miami's
know
up
where I
2-6.
don't know where Miami's going.
Yeah. Yeah. Still, it's an interesting Monday night game. Miami is only a 1-point dog in that game. That tells you something.
Shocks me.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way that Rams defense is playing,
Yeah.
the Dolphins are 32nd in the league in points scored.
Yeah. All right, listen, Sal, we get back from a quick break here. I want to circle back to the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to talk to you about Nick Sirianni and his obsession with analytics. Are they overusing Saquon Barkley? And what Sal Pao is looking for in the second half of the season. We're going to do all of that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Ford.